Hi class, Jolene here. We're going to talk about typographic hierarchy. And specifically, we're going to talk about how it applies to the assignment you're currently working on, the business cards for the stationery package for lesson 2. However, you'll see as we go along here that these principles, which I've got down here, apply to just about anything where you're using typography. So let's take a look at this. According to Robert Bringhurst, who wrote The Elements of Typographic Style, one of the most important techniques for effectively communicating or honoring content is the use of typographic hierarchy. So you can see here, I have this sentence in bold because I want to bring your attention to it. So I've elevated its hierarchy. Typographic hierarchy is a system for organizing type that establishes an order of importance within the data, allowing the reader to easily find what they're looking for and navigate the content. It helps guide the reader's eye to where a section begins and ends, whilst enabling the user to isolate certain information but based on the consistent use of style throughout a body of text. So let's take a look at this mock business card I've created here. I'm going to turn my guides on so you can see kind of what how I've set things up here. You'll notice that I've got 1/8 inch guides all the way around on the inside, and then I've got this extra guide here where I've lined up the top of this logo with this type. I've also created a center guide just in case I need it. So I'm going to turn those off now. We're just going to talk about the content. So we've got the logo over here. It's obviously the most important thing. It's not necessarily typography, although it includes the name Nike, which is typography, but it is the logo type. So it's got a symbol in type in it. And it is the most important thing, so it's bigger than everything else. The next most important thing on a business card is the name of the person whose card it is. So you can see that I've brought attention to that piece of information, John Smith, by making it bigger, bolder, and using color. And in this case, I used color to match the logo. So our eye kind of goes back and forth here, and we see that these two things are united. The next piece of information is the person's title. So here you can see I made it smaller. I made it in a slightly different typeface, or type style, I should say. You'll notice here that all of this type is Myriad Pro, but in the case of the title, I made it semi-bold and italic. And it is 10 points versus the person's name, which is 14 points. So you see how we've created some contrast there. But the two pieces of information are close together. So that's telling us that they're linked, that we should see them as being together. Now, the third most important thing is arguably the phone number. So you see here, I've made it big, bold, and it's standing there by itself. There's nothing crowded around it. So when you look at this, when somebody hands you this business card, first thing you're going to see is John Smith. Second thing you're going to see is the phone number. Then we have two other clumps of information. We have the email address and the website, because those two things kind of go together. And so they're the same size font. In this case, again, I've used Myriad Pro, but it's just a regular font and it's only 8 points. And those two pieces of information are together. And then the physical address, the two lines of the physical address are also together. But notice that I've created some white space between these two chunks of information. Separate them, make it easier to read. The other thing I want you to notice about this business card is all this white space. That white space is good, negative space it's also called. It allows the eye to rest. So down below here, I've given you the principles that we've just discussed. Size, the most common method for establishing hierarchy. Weight, using a bolder font. weight of a font can help isolate. Conversely, using a lighter weight connotes subservience. So you saw that I did that with the addresses. Color plays a big role in what our eye sees as primary and secondary. So generally speaking, warm colors pop versus cooler colors which recede. So if you look back at this, you see I used a warm color. I used red to make it pop, to make it really noticeable. And then positioning, where sections of information are positioned in relationship to each other, which can establish hierarchy. So these two pieces are close to each other but not touching, so that helps to establish their relationship to each other. And then contrasting typefaces, which is what I did here. So that's how you create typographic hierarchy.